For two reasons, we will not be able to support C-42. First of all, because of the loosening of transport regulations, which means that it would be very possible for, in any given supermarket parking lot, for firearms to be in the trunks of a car and therefore easily accessed by criminals willing to break in. Secondly, we feel that the classification of firearms, particularly what is an assault rifle and what is not, should be left to proper police authorities and not to politicians.
Can you feel your blood boiling? I can feel mine. Yeah, this is how Harper responded.
The statements the Liberal Party leader has made are recklessly irresponsible and false. The fact of the matter is, under this law, current law, and this law, Mr. Speaker, firearms can only be transported between specific locations. They must be in a locked case, they must be in a trunk, and they must be unloaded. And Mr. Speaker, those are the facts, but we expect this kind of distortion from the party that brought in the long gun registry and is itching to bring it back.
Distortion or ignorance? Which one is it going to be, Trudeau? I'm joined now by Sean Bevins. He's in Drummondville, Quebec. He's with the National Firearms Association. Sean, thanks for being here with us.
Thanks for having me, Kate.
All right, let's set the scene here for folks at home. So Conservatives have a new firearms, a proposed legislation, common sense, that does things like eliminate some red tape and some of the things that folks like you and myself, law-abiding gun owners, have to face on the regular. Then Trudeau says, I'm not going to be supporting it. Why? Two reasons. Sean, if I may, I'd like you to help me pick apart some of these reasons. First one, guns in supermarket parking lots, the transport loosenings. Take it away. Are we going to see guns in parking lots?
Look, you know what's quite shocking about this whole, Justin Trudeau coming out is that in fact the laws stem from C-68, which was a Liberal law. Nothing with regards to firearms classification, with the only difference being that the minister has always had the power since, for as long as it can be remembered, to classify firearms by way of order and council. So it's just it's difficult to understand if he's willingly or he's just straight out trying to deceive Canadians. This visions that we're seeing in C-42 really change nothing with the current Firearms Act. It may eliminate a simple piece of paper, but at the end of the day, do the hardened criminals, do they care about a piece of paper when they go to commit a crime with a firearm?
Great point. And the piece of paper that Sean's referring to now, folks, is the authorization to transport. Basically, after folks like Sean and myself have gone, we've done the several hours of the coursework. We've gone through our CMP checks. We've paid the hundreds of dollars. We've done all of this to make sure that we are good Canadians. What do we have to do? We have to get yet another piece of paper that allows us to take our restricted firearms from our home to either a gun range or a gunsmith and then take the most direct route possible there and back. All this does is eliminate that small piece of paper, but the architecture around it is still there, which means I can only still go to my gun range or to my gunsmith, and I only can take the most direct route possible. I ain't going to be stopping off for a tub of ice cream at the local No Frills. Sean, second point, you talk about the orders and councils, and that's how we do things like classify our firearms as restricted, non-restricted, prohibited, and the rest of it. So the Liberal Party puts out these ads. If we could just put the graphic back up there so we can see it. Because the funny part is, out of the, I think, 6 firearms that they have, they're 5, pardon me, they're actually all prohibited firearms. Okay, so I'm not going to be bringing those to the supermarket. No, not whatsoever. But what I find most concerning, Sean, is that he says that he criticizes the Harper Conservatives for taking power away from police and giving it to politicians. Sean, am I the only one who is so crazy to think that the politicians that we elected should be the ones making the laws?
Yeah, it's what is absolutely bizarre about this, really bizarre about this whole situation is that in many other areas of activism or many other areas of social concern, Liberals absolutely despise police power and absolutely despise, the arbitrariness in some of the actions, of some of the police bodies in Canada when it comes to issues that are close to their heart. But when it comes to a law-abiding gun owner, we can turn, law-abiding Canadians into criminals. That's not a problem. We can enter their homes without warrants. That's not a problem. These people are, gun owners are a bad thing in society, and it's okay if we, penalize that segment of the population. But let's protect, liberal activists in other areas of social justice. So what do we want? We want to turn Canada into a police state now, where we remove the power from our democratically elected officials. It's absolutely bizarre. And quite frankly, Justin Trudeau's policy, I'm not sure that he really understands, the actual issues surrounding, firearms crime. It's been scientifically proven. Dr. Kaylin Langman's extensive study of the subject, regulations including licensing, classification, and all the rest, have had no, impact on crime committed with firearms.
And while I think it's maybe a bit of a pipe dream to see...
I yearn for the day that Justin Trudeau will actually, recognize science and factual evidence rather than, some ridiculous emotion.
He's above science, Sean. You know that. All Liberals are. But look, getting back to a great point that you brought up, the fact that the classification powers lie with Cabinet, technically, through an order of council, and that was a Liberal policy. But I want to turn your attention now to some of the events in recent months and years where we have seen an abuse, a misdirection of police powers. And here I'm thinking about the RCMP and their role in the reclassification of certain firearms. Here I'm thinking the CZ, I'm thinking the Swiss arms. You follow those stories closely. Is it fair to say that there has been at least some misdirection when it comes to the RCMP lab rats?
Well, these are unelected, bureaucrats that, basically they've invented a bit of an industry in firearms classification. I mean, their job hinges upon firearms classification. We saw it with Swiss arms. This is a bureaucrat in a lab somewhere that decided, these firearms are people bought them in good faith, and then all of a sudden now, years after they were imported into Canada, now say, they're not suitable to be in civilian hands. And we, basically overnight criminalized, 15,000, innocent Canadians. That's what happens when we put these powers into the hands of unelected officials.
Now, I think I know where the gun community stands on this, but do you think that this, let's call it what it is, fear-mongering is going to backfire?
Well, you know what? The last time, something that I also don't quite comprehend from their position, the Liberal position, is that, they lost 64 rural seats the last time they talked about guns. So, I mean, they're just repeating the same mistakes over and over. Canadians are waking up to the fact that cannot be legislated out of people. Bad people will do bad things, and the more the Liberals talk about gun control and try to fracture and segment a community that is consisted of hunters, sport shooters, and collectors and target shooters, they're going to continue to lose seats. It's been very damaging for them in the past, and it will continue to be damaging for them in the future, until they recognize that we're not dangerous criminals.
Sean, I'm going to give 10 seconds right now. The common sense firearms legislation, is it enough to rectify the pains that have been caused with the Swiss arms CZ fiasco? Is it enough, or is everything good between the gun owners and Conservative Party members?
Well, we're actively working with Conservative Party members, and we obviously the NFA appreciates and recognizes some steps forward. That's highly appreciated. But at the end of the day, trying to cob together or make new old bad liberal laws that are highly ineffective in combating crime. We want to see the total repeal of C-68.
All right, John, we're gonna have to leave it there. Keep up all the good work, folks.